Graham Gardner, BBC News West, Barclay.
Well, now to the big switch on. It might not feel like it, but Christmas starts tonight. Scary, isn't it?
Yes, the festive lights are being switched on in the centre of Bristol and Swindon very shortly for the beginning of late-night Christmas shopping.
John Kay is in Broadmead to see the streets light up.
I agree with you two. I can't really quite feel in the Christmas spirit yet, but it's amazing what a couple of carols and a little bit of tinsel can do. The lights themselves go on in just a couple of minutes' time. This year they've been designed by local school children from across Bristol, as Rachel Hicks now reports.
All these pictures have been designed by primary school children from Bristol, and they show different aspects of life in the city at the moment. For example, this is a glass blower blowing some Bristol blue glass. Elements of the pictures have been combined to produce 4 new sets of lights, which will be turned on in Broadmead this evening. 4 schools took part in designing the new lights. It's hoped that next year the scheme can be expanded to involve even more.
They all very much enjoyed it. I think they all got a lot out of the day with the artists, working with professional artists.
These children at Dr. Bell's Junior School were some of the lucky few chosen to help create a brand new set of lights for Bristol.
But first of all, we had to do a sketch, and then we had to do our best, sort of like a best copy, and then we had to do it on black paper. There were 2 pictures, and he called out the names, and then he said this one won.
And this is the finished design. In just a few moments, the children will see it lit up in all its glory. Rachel Hicks, BBC News West, Bristol.
Well, that's what they're going to be lighting up. See their working lights in just a few seconds. Here's the countdown. Let's have a look at them on the plunger. There we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh no, that was a practice. I beg your pardon. I'm very sorry indeed. Let me just explain. Here we can see there, up on the podium here in the centre of Broadmead, there's the Lord Mayor. That's Councillor Graham Robertson, and the star guest is Rebecca Lacey, who you probably know rather better as Dr. George Woodman in the BBC's hit TV programme Casualty, filmed here, of course, in Bristol itself. And the children you can see on the stage, they are the children from the 4 schools in Bristol who have helped design the centrepiece to this year's Christmas lights design. Those schools involve Dr. Bell and St Matthias School in Fishpond, St Barnabas Primary in Montpellier, Parson Street Primary in Bedminster, and Whitehouse Primary in Hartcliffe. Their designs, not just the cranes, but all sorts of bits and pieces, and I think they're getting ready now for the big countdown. There's a plunger there on the stage. They're going to press it down, and then they're going to hopefully light up the whole of Bristol. Here we go. You're watching News West. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But hey, it's Christmas, apparently. And that's not festive snow, not a white Christmas yet. That's confetti that was drifting across the stage. The centre of Bristol's lit up. The main designs by the children are lit up. This is John Kay in the centre of Bristol. A Merry Christmas.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, yes. Have you got my present yet?
I thought I'd wait for the sales, actually.
You're going to read on? All right. I'll read on then. Do stay with us while we sort ourselves out. Still lots to come tonight. The scooter that could beat the traffic jams.
And why horsepower still reigns for West Country Police.
Before that, in other news tonight, extra police have been drafted in to help with the Jenny King murder hunt after floods of calls from the public. More than 100 officers are now involved in the second week of the murder hunt. Jenny's body was found strangled near her home in Warmley. She was last seen alive at Chasers nightclub in Kingswood. Police will be there again this weekend to question clubbers. A lorry load of life-saving supplies is leaving Bristol for Central America to help the survivors of Hurricane Mitch. Local people have donated food, blankets and other equipment at the United Reformed Church on White Ladies Road. The supplies are being taken first to Southampton, where they'll be loaded onto a ship to continue the journey to Honduras. The relief has been organised by volunteers from the local branch of Christian Aid.
The former hostages, John James and Camilla Carr, have made their first public appearance since being released after 15 months of captivity. The couple attended a charity concert in their honour in Bath last night, surrounded by friends and family.
for John and Camilla's release now sang with them. And they got a personal thank you.
Say thank you to all the performers as well who are donating their talents. Have I just told them? She stole all my work.
But the couple refused to give interviews to the media present, preferring to leave the talking to their parents.
But I'm still emotional now. Every time I see them, I fill up. I just can't realise yet that they're home. But it is wonderful, of course.
They've been very, very busy. I think they need some time to themselves. They've had very little time. But they are doing remarkably well.
Little is known about what the couple have been up to since they arrived back in Britain almost 2 months ago. Marriage is definitely on the cards, and there's talk also of a book about their ordeal. Francesca Castellitz, BBC News West, Bath.
While water levels remain high across the west, part of Somerset is still recovering from last year's floods. Ironically, the main casualty of the worst flooding in 30 years to hit the levels was the fish population. But today, hundreds were introduced into the River Parrett, which anglers say is now nearly back to its best.
Back in nature, but it may not be for long. 1,500 fish moved home today. They've been brought to the River Parrett at Langport by an Environment Agency Land Rover, having been caught by anglers at a reservoir near Yeovil. The aim, to restock levels, important both for the whole ecosystem and local fishing clubs.
Oh, it's an enormous difference. Just after the pollution, you really struggled on the river. You were lucky to catch £1 of fish. Now you can catch £10 plus anywhere.
The floods that hit the Somerset levels in August last year left large tracts of farmland underwater. The silty floodwater stagnated, reducing oxygen levels. Despite using chemicals to aerate it, floodwater pumped back into rivers killed thousands of fish.
The fish levels took a knockback in the floods, and the fish are there, they're being fished for by the anglers, they're also there as part of the ecosystem, they're there for food for other animals, so it's only right that we give it a helping hand and boost what's happening in the river at the moment.
Nature will now take over. When these fish breed next year, a population boom is expected, as long as the anglers don't get them first. Paul Baltrop, BBC News West, Langport.
When the mounted section of the Avon and Somerset Police were established 100 years ago, they were at the cutting edge of police work. Well, today's tools are helicopters and fast cars, and the horses have had to work very hard to prove they're worth keeping. Well, now the only mounted section in the southwest is in such demand, it hires out its horses to neighbouring forces. Officers from Avon and Somerset Police put a young horse through its paces. They're watching to see if this 4-year-old gelding has what it takes to join their mounted division. They know they're bucking the trend at a time when budgets are tight and more high-tech equipment is being brought in. Questions are being asked about the value of using police horses.
We are seen as antiques, although I do believe very strongly that we offer a valuable service.
Other forces, whilst cutting back on their mounted units, realise the benefits, especially when it comes to controlling football fans. Avon and Somerset say they can claw back some of the costs by hiring out their horses to these forces. But it's in demonstrations like this one in Broadmead and Bristol last year when they really show their worth, because the horses can fulfil a role but cars and helicopters cannot.
I've seen them in disorder situations. The public find them an acceptable face of policing, which is a good thing. And given the cost and given what we get out of them, they justify their value. So we'll be keeping them.
100 years after horses first worked for Avon and Somerset Police, mounted officers will be hoping they'll continue into the next century. And you can see more on that story by joining me for Close Up West tonight at 7:30 over on BBC Two.
We're on two wheels now. It's hard to imagine that traffic jams in cities like Bath and Bristol could get much worse, but the government is predicting there could be twice as many cars on the road by the year 2021. So it's never too soon to start looking at other ways of travelling to and from work. Well, News West has taken to the roads to look at some unusual two-wheeled alternatives that could just beat the jams. Scott Ellis reports.